This is Day One.
We begin tonight with the story of a brilliant scientist who cared about only two things in life: chemistry and breaking the rules. From the beginning, he wanted to be an outlaw, and his chemistry lab was his weapon. This is a man who never finished high school, yet he was so intelligent that he taught himself to make drugs of astonishing complexity. One of those drugs was a powerful anesthetic that he made illegally and sold as heroin. So powerful that when it was sold on the street, it killed hundreds of people. Now, what's even more remarkable about this man is that he admits everything and feels no remorse. In fact, he would still be designing deadly drugs today if he had not been caught. Our story begins in the winter of 1991. In the drug markets all along the East Coast, narcotics users were passing the word. Some incredibly powerful new heroin had hit the streets.
These bags were white, and they were folded like your regular heroin bag with a black stamp on it, Tango and Cash.
They said there was a good bag out there, and it was called Tango and Cash. It was a killer, and it was a killer.
Since Friday, 11 people have died in the tri-state area, and 136 addicts have been treated for taking a form of heroin that has been poisoned.
This is a public safety announcement from the Hartford Police Department. Tango and Cash spelled overdose.
It was being widely reported that a new kind of what they called a designer drug or a synthetic narcotic was killing addicts.
New York State investigator Joanne Leoni had heard of this new drug, fentanyl. It looks like heroin and gives the same kind of high, but it's far more dangerous. So strong that even when it's cut or diluted, a tiny dose can still kill you.
It's just almost impossible to properly cut it and put it out as heroin. And how you track it is deaths. I mean, deaths follow where fentanyl is distributed.
And police followed the deaths from Massachusetts to Maryland, desperately looking for the drug's source. They had no way of knowing the path led to a remote lab on the Kansas prairie and a criminal unlike any they had seen before. A self-taught genius, some said, who lived for chemistry and cared nothing for the people who got in his way. George Marquardt, 48 years old.
How many people died on your fentanyl, do you think?
My guess, probably about 300.
You ever think about them?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that they're on one end of an extremely risky business and that I'm on the other, and that both of us took dangerous risks.
From the time he was a child, Marquardt loved taking those risks and loved breaking the rules. A little boy other kids called Eric, who seemed a little scary to classmates.
You know, I would classify Eric as a person who probably can't tell right from wrong. He's an amoral type of a person. He only knows one way to do things, and that's Eric's way. It's his way.
Marquardt found his way here in the basement of his parents' house in Waukesha, Wisconsin, building a life of crime out of beakers and Bunsen burners.
If you liked chemistry or electronics, you would have loved my basement. I tampered with explosives of one sort or another, and including some fairly serious ones. Of course, I also taught people how to manufacture alcohol and distill it.
So you were a kid libertarian.
Yeah, made a bit of kid anarchist. Huh?
People said, well, he's either going to be a Nobel Prize laureate or he's going to wind up in prison. And that's the truth.
In 1964, Marquardt dropped out of high school and spent his days with his chemicals and with the writings of the only people he truly admired, the old German chemists who made pure science their religion and ignored the destruction their religion could create.
You are quoted, tell me if it's wrong, that the thing about German chemists, including Nazi chemists, that intrigues you is that they are not interested in the social consequences of their actions. They are interested in the pure chemistry.
Well, I will stand behind that statement, sure.
You're not interested in the social consequences of your actions?
No, I care nothing about them.
George Marquardt grew up to become a drug user's dream come true, a magician who could conjure up hallucinogens and amphetamines by the pound. And Marquardt's dream had come true as well. At last, he had become the master chemist.
I believe when Marquardt was a little boy that he wanted to be the wizard. That he was the little kid with the chemistry set that wanted to be a mad scientist. And I don't know that those images, those self-interpretive images, ever left him.
Marquardt was so obsessed with pure chemistry, he once complained to Oklahoma drug agents about another chemist who was manufacturing poor quality amphetamines, and even showed the agents a dozen different ways to make them properly. Thoroughly impressed, the agents began investigating Marquardt.
January 17th, 1978.
Yeah, that was kind of a bad day all the way around.
What happened?
Well, I opened my door and I thought someone was going to be out there with my breakfast. And lo and behold, my front yard was filled with narcotics agents.
And Marquardt opened the door with a gas mask on. Pulls his gas mask off and he says, "Mel, Jimmy, come on in, you busted me." And then he went to court and wanted to plead guilty. And then the judge said, "Mr. Marquardt, what are you going to do when you get out of prison?" He says, "I'm going to go back to cooking dope, sir."
That statement assured Marquardt a maximum sentence of 10 years in federal prison in Pennsylvania. But it didn't stop him from scheming. He met another inmate, Joseph Martier, and together they cooked up a plan to make fentanyl and sell it as heroin. When they got out, they found a Boston mobster, Christopher Moscatello, who agreed to distribute the fake heroin and put up the money to buy the ingredients Marquardt needed. Those purchases set off the first alarms inside the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration.
I was contacted by our Boston office. A suspicious chemical order had come into them, listing several chemicals and some pieces of fairly sophisticated glassware.
The DEA photographed Martier carrying glassware in a baby carriage. They tracked him to a lab outside Boston, but just when agents were going to move in, their targets disappeared. Sensing they were being followed, Marquardt had loaded his equipment onto the back of a truck and headed west. He set up in Wichita, Kansas, and started cranking out the deadly fake heroin.
Well, our bosses gave us the drug to distribute it throughout the metropolitan area in New York.
Chris was a heroin dealer in the South Bronx.
Not even 10 hours later, we started getting the word to get rid of all the stuff we had left, because it was killing people.
There was a lot of people died, a lot of friends of mine, a lot of people I know died from it.
Jerry, Ray, and Scott, former heroin addicts, were among the first to buy.
With this here, there was no high. It was just lights out.
All I remember was waking up like 8 hours later in a shower, dripping wet, and that I had gone out. But even after that, my first words were, "I got to get some more of that."
The deaths were considered good advertising by the people that distributed the product and shopped the. When someone dies of a drug overdose, people immediately get enthusiastic about it, and, well, we want to get some of that stuff, and they go looking for it.
Marquardt was happy to keep them supplied, no matter how many were dying.
You knew this is one of the most potent drugs there is.
I did indeed.
And you knew that if it was cut wrong, it could kill somebody. And you knew these guys...
No, worse than that. Worse than that. I thought it would kill people anyway.
And you still made it.
Indeed I did. Made quite a lot of it, too.
I'm sorry. There are a lot of people who are going to ask, what the heck is the matter with you?
I'm a criminal.
I think they are murderers. I think they went out and knew that they were creating an environment where deaths would occur run-of-the-mill.
Carlo Baccia, head of the DEA's Northeast office, knew he needed a break in the case, and he got it. Agents picked up Martier's trail and hoped he would lead them to the fentanyl lab and to George Marquardt.
We saw by a pattern of payphone calls that they were still in touch with each other and that they were attempting to conceal their contact with each other.
Well, Martier and Marquardt both knew that they were never out of our sights. They might have been out of our grasp, but never out of our sight.
To Marquardt, the DEA's race to stop the deaths was all a game of cops and robbers.
You called being on the run, the chase itself, the lost American folk adventure.
Last American folk adventure.
The light in the moon. Narcotics agents chasing you all over the land. It's a fantasy made real.
Oh, it was interesting. I mean, I spent a lot of years doing exactly what I wanted to do, and at no point in my life was I so foolish as to imagine that there wouldn't be a price paid for this.
Another warning tonight about a lethal form of heroin called China White.
In Baltimore, they called Marquardt's fentanyl China White. In 1992, 30 people died in this city alone.
He's as much a murderer as people who pull out a gun and shoot another person, to my way of thinking, regardless of the fact that the people that used the drug were after drugs. They were not after death.
Kay and Joseph Cook's 21-year-old son Jack and some of his friends decided to try what they thought was heroin at a party. Jack nodded off and never woke up.
We had a handsome young son who was full of promise and full of plans that were just all snuffed out one night with some white powder.
It sure looks to me as though the equation of this business in your life is that the money you make from selling these drugs is more important than the human lives that are lost.
That's what's really being said. That is, I think that's a true statement. I think that...
Are you saying that?
Yeah, that's what we're really saying, you know, and I think the money that it is possible to garner from a drug transaction is, you know, potential profits, and sometimes the actual profits are so large that these considerations are swept aside.
You happy about that?
No, I'm not happy about it.
Are you secure with that? I mean,
it happened.
I don't understand, George. I'm sorry. How do you sit there and say it happened? Is that a way of blocking it?
No, I'm not blocking it. It's just this for us, sir, is the drug business. And it's a nasty business.
In 1992, the DEA got a tip that would finally break the case. An informant turned up in Boston.
The DEA informant said that the lab was located possibly in the Kansas area and that Joseph Martier had overdosed at the lab site in the summer of 1992.
Agents swarmed into Wichita and systematically checked every hospital in the area and every 911 call.
It turned out that the call had been made from Prairie Labs in Goddard, Kansas, which turns out to be George Marquardt's business.
The agents started watching the drug lab and Marquardt's home around the clock. Aerial photographs were used to map every structure, right down to the doghouse. On February 3rd, 1993, when Marquardt was driving to work, the agents were ready to move.
Remember how tired we were. I remember how cold it was, and we got out here pretty early that morning. And
the head of the DEA's Wichita office is Barry Jamison.
I was the one that initially approached his vehicle, and as I did, with our red lights on.
Little blue car got in front of me with the light on and looked out the window, and oh, this looks real bad. There were a lot of people out there, and they looked a whole lot like narcotics agents.
And George got out of the vehicle with his hands up, and he said, what took you so long? Where have you been? You guys should have been here a lot sooner.
You figured they'd catch you?
Oh, there's no doubt, you know, when you've got the whole Drug Enforcement Administration after you, yeah, I think you would be foolish to assume otherwise.
A major drug bust in Wichita and the surrounding area nets some deadly chemicals tonight.
The fentanyl killing spree was finally over, and only the cleanup was left. It would take 2 days, with agents treating the drug lab like a toxic waste dump. There were dangerous chemicals everywhere, elaborate glassware, and ounces of the final product, fentanyl so pure it could kill anyone who touched it. Joseph Martier was given 30 years for selling the fentanyl. The day before Boston mobster Christopher Moscatello was to be arrested, he was found executed, gangland style. His murder has never been solved. Once again, George Marquardt pleaded guilty to manufacturing drugs, and this time he was sentenced to 25 years. Marquardt was never charged in any of the fentanyl deaths.
Do you feel any guilt?
No.
Do you have a concept of evil?
Yes, I do.
And you are not that?
Oh, I think there's not much question about that.
The answer is?
Oh, I believe that this was an evil plot.
And you, George Marquardt,
is an evil person.
George Marquardt was the fentanyl epidemic. So when they put him away, the epidemic went with him. But he has no doubt illegal fentanyl will be back on the streets. He says someone else will certainly start manufacturing it because there's just too much money to be made. By the way, we should point out that fentanyl is often used legally as an anesthetic in hospitals. And when it's administered properly, it is absolutely safe.